UFOs to Nazi Germany. In ufology, conspiracy theory, science fiction, and comic book stories, claims or stories have circulated linking UFOs to Nazi Germany. The German UFO theories describe supposedly successful attempts to develop advanced aircraft or spacecraft prior to and during World War II, further asserting the post-war survival of these craft in secret underground bases in Antarctica, South America, or the United States, along with their creators. Early UFOs as possible Nazi technology. During the Second World War, unusual sightings in the skies above Europe were often interpreted as novel Nazi technology. In the first years of the Cold War, Western nations speculated that unusual sightings might stem from Soviet deployment of captured or reverse-engineered Nazi technology. Foo Fighters. In World War II, the so-called Foo Fighters, a variety of unusual and anomalous aerial phenomena, were witnessed by both Axis and Allied personnel. While some Foo Fighter reports were dismissed as the misperceptions of troops in the heat of combat, others were taken seriously, and leading scientists such as Luis Alvarez began to investigate them. 2. Page needed. In at least some cases, Allied intelligence and commanders suspected that Foo Fighters reported in the European theater represented advanced German aircraft or weapons, particularly given that Germans had already developed such technological innovations as V-1 and V-2 rockets and the first operational jet-powered Me-262 fighter planes. After Kenneth Arnold's widely reported close encounter with 9 crescent-shaped objects moving at a high velocity. Personnel of Project Sign, the first U.S. Air Force UFO investigation group, noted that the advanced flying wing aeronautical designs of the German Horten brothers were similar to some UFO reports. In 1959, Captain Edward J. Ruppelt, the first head of Project Blue Book, Project Sign's follow-up investigation, wrote, "When World War II ended, the Germans had several radical types of aircraft and guided missiles under development. The majority were in the most preliminary stages, but they were the only known craft that could even approach the performance of objects reported by UFO observers. While these early speculations and reports were limited primarily to military personnel, the earliest assertion of German flying saucers in the mass media appears to have been an article which appeared in the Italian newspaper Il Giornale d'Italia in early 1950. Written by Professor Giuseppe Belluzzo, an Italian scientist and a former Italian minister of national economy under the Mussolini regime, it claimed that types of flying discs were designed and studied in Germany and Italy as early as 1942. Belluzzo also expressed the opinion that some great power is launching discs to study them. The same month, German technician Rudolf Schriever, 1909 to 1953, gave an interview to German news magazine Der Spiegel in which he claimed that he had designed a craft powered by a circular plane of rotating turbine blades 49 feet, 15 meters, in diameter. He said that the project had been developed by him and his team at BMW's Prague works until April 1945, when he fled to Czechoslovakia. His designs for the disc and a model were stolen from his workshop in Bremerhaven-Lehigh in 1948, and he was convinced that Czech agents had built his craft for a foreign power. 1213 In a separate interview with Der Spiegel in October 1952, he said that the plans were stolen from a farm he was hiding in near Regen on May 14, 1945. There are other discrepancies between the two interviews that add to the confusion. In 1953, when Avro Canada announced that it was developing the VZ-9 AV Avrocar, a circular jet aircraft with an estimated speed of 1,500 miles per hour, 2,400 kilometers per hour, German engineer George Klein claimed that such designs had been developed during the Nazi era. Klein identified 2 types of supposed German flying discs. A non-rotating disc developed at Breslau by V-2 rocket engineer Richard Meath, which was captured by the Soviets, while Meath fled to the U.S. via France and ended up working for Avro. A disc developed by Rudolf Schriever and Klaus Habermohl at Prague, which consisted of a ring of moving turbine blades around a fixed cockpit. Klein claimed that he had witnessed this craft's first crewed flight on February 14, 1945, when it managed to climb to 12,400 meters, 40,700 feet, in 3 minutes and attained a speed of 2,200 kilometers per hour, 1,400 miles per hour, in level flight. Meath claimed he had worked on the V-2 program, but no corroborating evidence exists. George Klein claimed the engineer had escaped capture by the Soviets in Breslau by flying out in a Messerschmitt Me-163 Comet, which would have been impossible. There is no evidence that Habermohl even existed. Rudolf Schriever claimed he had worked for Heinkel as a test pilot and engineer between 1940 and 1941, but this has never been corroborated. In post-war Germany, Schriever drove supply trucks for the U.S. Army but told newspaper reporters that delegates from foreign powers were constantly making him offers regarding his wartime projects. Aeronautical engineer Roy Fedden remarked that the only craft that could approach the capabilities attributed to flying saucers were those being designed by the Germans towards the end of the war. Fedden, who was also chief of the technical mission to Germany for the Ministry of Aircraft Production, stated in 1945, "I have seen enough of their designs and production plans to realize that if they, the Germans, had managed to prolong the war some months longer, we would have been confronted with a set of entirely new and deadly developments in air warfare." Fedden also added that the Germans were working on a number of very unusual aeronautical projects, though he did not elaborate upon his statement.